Michelle Obama goes to Princeton for free.
Yeah.
And has been in the ruling class her whole life.
Yeah.
And she's still lecturing you about how she's a victim of racism. Hillary Clinton, exact same thing. Goes to Wellesley, spends her entire life in the ruling class, and she's still whining about how she's discriminated against. Why are they doing that?
Yeah. And did you ever see, they'll have like pictures of side by side, but it'll be like pictures of like Jimmy Carter's house and Obama's house.
Exactly.
And it totally represents something about the like corroding of our soul.
In a white neighborhood, you should be required to live in the hood if you're Barack Obama and use.
If you're using that card,
use that card. The only reason you got elected was because of your race. You spent your entire 8 years inflaming race hate in our country, and then you go to Martha's Vineyard, the whitest zip code in the world? Not allowed.
Yeah.
You're not allowed.
During a recent appearance on Tucker Carlson Tonight, a guest completely dismantled the mainstream narrative surrounding the Obama legacy, and it was nothing short of eye-opening. From identity politics to massive financial gains, the conversation left Tucker visibly stunned and laid bare some uncomfortable truths about the political elite. Honestly, at this point, the hypocrisy surrounding these figures is hard to overlook. But before we dive deeper into these shocking revelations, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more insights into the stories the mainstream media avoids. All right, now let's get to it. Here's a jaw-dropping fact. When Barack Obama entered office in 2008, his net worth was about $1.3 million, a typical amount for a U.S. senator. Fast forward to today, and he's reportedly worth over $70 million. Quite a leap, right? Of course, we're expected to believe this came from book deals and speaking engagements, but is it really that simple? It's hard to ignore the potential behind-the-scenes networks of influence and financial dealings that might be at play. The guest didn't stop there, explaining how identity politics has turned into one of the most profitable industries today, with figures like the Obamas, Clintons, and Bidens raking in millions. They've managed to profit immensely from the narrative of victimhood. But here's where it gets absurd.
Barack Obama's campaign in 2008, first of all, it was just leaving how you feel about the guy aside, it was an amazing campaign. It was unlike anything that had ever been run before.
It was genius.
Yes, it was totally brilliant. It was now, of course, it wasn't what they presented it as. It wasn't like a grassroots campaign. It was,
let's sort of like elect the black guy and get past the race stuff. I loved that.
Well, especially because that was his message.
That was his message.
And let's get past the race stuff.
I love that.
He goes, then I think essentially what happened, and it was around Obama's re-election campaign, this is where things really went off the rails in this country, was that he got in there and continued and expanded all the worst of the Bush policies.
Oh, of course.
And so they almost had nothing to run on, and so they decided to pivot to a culture war instead.
Barack Obama's 2008 campaign was revolutionary in many ways, regardless of how you feel about him. It was unlike any campaign that came before it, clever and highly effective. However, the reality behind the scenes was different from the public image. It wasn't exactly the grassroots effort it was portrayed to be. The idea of electing a black president to move beyond racial issues was a key part of his message, and it resonated with many.
Many of us still live in fear as we go to the grocery store or worry about walking our dogs or allowing our children to get a license. I mean, just imagine.
Aren't your girls driving?
They're driving. Yeah. But every time they get in a car by themselves, I worry about what assumption is being made by somebody who doesn't know everything about them. The fact that they are good students and polite girls, but maybe they're playing their music a little loud. Maybe somebody sees the back of their head and makes an assumption. I, like so many parents of black kids, have to, that the innocent act of getting a license puts fear in our hearts.
Let's break down the numbers, because this is where it gets fascinating. Barack Obama charges around $400,000 for a single speaking engagement, while Michelle commands up to $700,000. The Clintons have pulled in over $230 million from post office speaking gigs alone. What exactly are they saying that's worth that much? Simple. They're not getting paid for their words, but for their influence. It's a pay-to-play system where regular Americans aren't part of the equation. If you think this is about sharing wisdom or motivating crowds, think again. The real profit comes from book deals, media deals, and charity foundations that somehow never seem to fix the problems they claim to address. After leaving the White House, the Obamas signed a $65 million book deal. The Bidens made $16 million in 2 years.
Notice a theme here. There are a lot of extremely rich people who are deeply miserable and desperate to have you believe they're victims. What is that?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, LeBron James living in Bel Air, he's a victim. Meghan Markle went downgraded from billionaire to multimillionaire. She's a victim. They want you to know that they're all victims. It's because they're trying to distract us. The truth is that they view us as peasants. They're trying to make it seem like, hey, when the peasants turn against us because they're actually robbing all of them, we don't want them to look at us. We want to make them think that we're one of us. They're not one of us. They're nothing like us. They don't live like us. She has nothing that goes on in her life that is similar to the average American, yet she keeps trying to use her skin color and her complexion as a way to make people believe that she's suffering, and she's absolutely not suffering. And everyone should be aware that if you're watching this and you think that LeBron James and Meghan Markle and Barack Obama and Michelle Obama are oppressed, you are a fool. You have been fooled. They are doing just fine.
Here's the kicker. The very people who preach about equity and justice are the ones benefiting the most from the corrupt financial systems they claim to oppose. They rail against corporate greed, yet they themselves are the corporations. They demand Americans pay their fair share, but conveniently move their money through tax havens and nonprofit organizations. They shout about climate change, yet somehow have no issue flying private to their multi-million-dollar estates, living with zero concern. Sound familiar? At the end of the day, this isn't about fighting for the little guy or addressing oppression. It's about power, control, and money. Tucker Carlson's guest laid this all out for everyone to see. The real question is whether people are starting to wake up to this reality, or if the media will keep covering for these figures while attacking anyone brave enough to speak out. What do you think? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more content.